Okay, is everybody seeing a Tropolealaps screen? Okay. Um, so this is what Frank Rinkovich was going to talk about, Tropolealaps mites. There's a new pest that behaves a lot like the Varroa mites, which we know and love here. Let me see if I can scroll down a page. And I'll try and zoom in on this, but Tropolealaps mites are coming from kind of the same region that Varroa Destructor came from, and they're kind of taking the same pathway across the world that Varroa did, so it's reasonable to expect they will eventually get here. So here's a description of Tropolealaps mites. They look and behave a lot like Varroa mites, except they're much smaller and more mobile. So instead of just, how Varroa mite just barely crawls, when these come out of the cell with the adult bee, they're incredible how quick and mobile they are. So they originate from Southeast Asia, and this slide kind of below shows their current distribution in the world. But you'll notice now they're starting to get into the stands, the Uzbekistan, Turkestan, and Central Asia. So that's kind of the similar pathway for Varroa. This mite, it's a voracious brood consumer. So let me scroll down here a little bit. It's the way it currently develops is it goes through the kind of the same development cycle as Varroa Destructor, enters the cell right before it's capped, the foundress, the first mite. Once it's capped, she starts laying eggs, kind of, again, along the same lines as Varroa. She lays a lot more eggs. She can have more offspring. And when the adult bee is open, emerges, these mites come out of the cell, just like Varroa Destructor, except they're quicker and they're more mobile, and they need to find more brood really quickly. So their food cycle, their mouth parts aren't able to pierce an adult bee's skin. And that also, it's much easier for a Varroa mite to pierce a pupating bee in development skin as well. So these mites, their mouth parts can't pierce an adult bee's skin. So they exit the cell and they're going straight for more brood. So this slide describes their feeding and their dispersal method. It's the same thing. They'll cling onto a bee, get carried to. It's not Farisi, but they're a passenger on the adult bee when it goes to new comb. So it's getting to, we want to keep it out of North American beekeeping as much as we can, and when it does get here, we expect for it to have the same kind of results that Varroa first did when it first came on shore in the U.S. So you can see here here's the physical comparison of the two mites. And it's nearly the same length, but not the same width as a Varroa mite. It has a few little features like the antenna you can see are a little more developed than on a Varroa mite. So it's going to be important for people to recognize, especially shipping, to spot these mites at a shipping port. So, Varroa came in through shipping, and we expect probably this mite to do the same. So that's one of those things that the USDA does for us, is they do a lot of that inspection. And right now, of all those countries that were in that distribution map, we don't allow shipments of bee materials from those countries into the US right now because of this threat. So that's the physical comparison of the mites. So here's the methods that we can use to detect. So since we know the mites emerge with adult bee, just like Varroa mites, we can bump that frame of old or comb that bees are just emerging from, or old cap brood that's, again, bees are emerging. You could bump that comb down and examine what comes off of it. And in that, like a white tray or a white paper towel, you can examine what comes off of that, and hopefully you can spot it. Once they get here, you would be able to spot this mite scurrying around on that white surface. So they have this bump method is basically that, shaking the frame down and looking for what comes off of the frame on the examination table. So again, this will probably, when they list the sensitivity and the speed of the operation, yeah, it's going to be fast. Yeah. So, I mean, the analog we have is Varroa. So at this point and then I'm relying on memory here, but at this point, it was only a few years before Europe was overrun with Varroa mites. So that was the I'm going to say, mid 80s. And then 5 years there. And then it was on shore, like, I think in 4 years it, after it went through Europe. So we had a little heads up about what chemicals and things worked a little bit, with that 3 or 4 years of lead time, I guess, from Europe. But once they got here, I remember, scratching our head. We had Apistan. We had a few chemical treatments, and otherwise we didn't know what to do. It was that was a steep learning curve. So yeah, so the reason this pest has been confined up until now is because it relies on brood rearing all the time. So you think about it now, in the climates where we have a winter brood break, or in our area, down in the valley floor, we used to have a winter brood break for at least a month. And that's kind of disappearing. So that's why this pest has been confined to, Southeast Asia, subtropical Asia, is because it required continuous brood in order to build up and survive. And that's probably the Achilles heel of this mite. So a method of control, and I think we'll have a slide a little bit later, a method of control for this is a brood break. So if we take a brood away, now they're saying 6 days, no brood, the mites starve to death. So this is a big mode of control for the mite, is brood breaks. I looked at another paper from 2018, and back then they said only 2 days of brood starvation, and they would starve out.
Formic and Thymol work on tropolealaps. We also remind you of questions.
Oh, okay. So the question was whether our current chemical treatments for Varroa mites will work on Tropolealaps, And the answer is, to a limited extent, yes. So they're very, if we go down the taxonomy of these two mites, they're very similar. They have a lot of similar behaviors down to the very lower end of their taxonomy, and then they veer off a little bit. But these same chemicals, for instance, formic acid, Randy mentioned this when he was here, that showed a lot of promise for treating Tropolealaps mites. So in this primer from this year, from the Honeybee Health Coalition, they also list all of the chemical treatments that we use for Varroa Destructor control have some effectiveness on this Tropolealaps mite as well. So we don't have an empty toolbox for control. There are some chemical controls, and we have the brood break control. So the reason there's some concern for this mite is, and it's one specific species of it called Mercedaceae that shows some adaptability now going into a more seasonal climate. So they increase the amount of time. For some of those species, it may be 2 days without brood, they starve out. But now we're going to have a species that goes 6 days without brood and still able to survive. So there's some adaptability going on. And one of these papers that's at the end of this article looks at some haploidy, some genetic studies that showed this subspecies of Tropolealaps actually has some adaptability that it's gone through. So back to the, oh, yes.
They can coexist with Varroa.
If
they can coexist with Varroa.
yeah, they definitely do find the same thing. Yeah. So the reverse is true for Varroa mites in tropic regions. The humidity is so high, the environmental conditions are such that they're not a big pest under those conditions. Like you go to Hawaii, they're not concerned about Varroa like we are. They're more concerned about small hive beetle, which thrives in that environment. Varroa doesn't exist as much in the tropics as it does here. But yeah, they do. They have found them in the same colonies.
Think so?
Oh, same cell?
Well,
Or that I don't know. I'll have to research that. That is, a foundress from each species comes in the same cell, starts a reproductive cycle. So that's a good question. I'll have to research that a little. So back to the detection methods, they have the sticky board. So you're starting to see the exact same detection methods that we use for Varroa Destructor. They're using them here for the Tropolealaps mite too. So they got sticky board, you pull out the storyboard and you examine the debris and see what's in there. Those are just trend indicators. So something has to die and fall through the bottom of that and not get transported out of the colony to make it to the storyboard. So that's what the sticky board is. It's just pulling the board out, examining the debris that's under there. So we do that. Some people do that for Varroa. Opening brood cells. So like we'll have people do, they'll decap their drone frames, brood cells, and count how many mites are in those cells in order to get a indication of infestation level in the colony. That's the same thing. We'll do the same thing in the Tropolealaps. And I'm not sure I've tried to see if there was an affinity for one brood cast versus the other, like a worker bee cell versus a drone bee cell in Tropolealaps, I'm not sure there is. It makes sense that we have more time to develop. They would have more offspring, just like Varroa Destructor. But I can't tell you that for sure with Tropolealaps. I haven't seen that um, written yet. But that's the same thing we do with our drone frames. Uncap and count uh, numbers of cells with a Varroa mite in them. You could do the same thing with Varroa or with Tropolealaps. Powdered sugar, you can do a powdered sugar dusting or um, a powdered sugar shake. It's just like an alcohol wash, except with powdered sugar. Um, Same thing, quarter cup of bees, drop it in there, shake it, put it down on a white examination table, and maybe use a little water to make it that sugar translucent, and then you can count really easily the mites that are left over. So you'll use, that's the same detection method that they're going to use for Tropolealaps too. It's real time consuming. That's why um, I personally don't use it, or I don't know a lot of people that use it because it takes a ton of time. There was an alcohol wash. You you do those in 2 minutes comparatively. So um, they've got that listed as fast. I don't think that's fast, but the soapy water alcohol wash, that's the same thing that we teach for varroa mites. They're going to use the same detection method for uh, Tropolealaps. So you see all the, you know, it's a mite. Taxonomically, it's a mite, and we use the same types of um, detection. The mite reproduces in a lot of the same ways that a varroa mite does. So there's a lot of similarities between the two. Yes.
Station levels that you can look at, like with the count of 300 bees, you're looking for 6.
Okay. So the question was, what's the action level on a wash for Tropolealaps? And that I don't know either. I haven't seen that listed. But based on the amount of offspring that they produce and the how fast they locomote, I would think there's at least got to, the counts have got to be like um, at least uh, double the magnitude of a Varroa. Like if you had a count of 6 in Varroa, that's our action level to do a treatment. I would I would think if you saw 3 in in a mite wash cup, you would take action. Yes.
They, as soon as they leave the cap cell, they emerge with the bee, they go back to a cap cell.
Yes. Or
And they're not on the comb. So, you know, if you get to the point where you see them on the comb, you're really in trouble.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's that. They basically go from one brood cell to another, and the offspring does the same. They have no ability to feed on adults, so they have to depend on the brood. So yeah, if I saw 1 or 2 of those, I would be pretty frightened myself, given how fast they reproduce. They also have a faster reproduction cycle than varroa mites, so it sounds like they can take over a colony in really short time. So those are the detection methods. So it's what should you do if you find one, a Tropolealap mite? Well, like all things bees, you can always send samples off to the USDA in Beltline, was that Arkansas, or their office. You can always submit samples for identification and testing to the US.
Hey guys, I don't know if you can hear me, but we lost Jim's audio online.
How about now? Do you hear me now?
Now we hear you, yes.
Okay. Hope I'm not running out of battery already. Just let me know when you ran out of sound.
Okay.
So there are some things that look like Tropolealaps, but they may not be. So it's good. Anytime we have a bee question that involves identification, you can always send samples to USDA. And they're also asking that you contact your state uh, um, apiary or ag service right away as well.
Lost you again.
Okay. So control methods. So I don't know if you can see in bold there, but it says formic acid and brood breaks seem to be the best control methods for this pest. Even though we have a long list of other things that we use for Varroa, they may well be just as have some effectiveness. That's what we'd hope to get from Frank today is what level of effectiveness. But even Randy mentioned formic as a good promising control for this mite. So with that and brood breaks, hopefully those are two methods we can use to control this mite. And also they list a few things that they are doing now to keep Tropolealaps out of the US. And it's the shipping, inspection of shipping, and not allowing shipping of bee-related material to come into the country from any country that shows distribution. And so for that map that we previously saw, those countries are not allowed to ship bee-related material into the US. So there's some more resources at the bottom of this, and this is the Honeybee Health Coalition's primer on Tropolealaps. So if you go to the Honeybee Health Coalition site, you can download these papers and look at them. And some of these are pretty interesting papers that have been written about Tropo so far. So that is about all I feel I can tell you on Tropolealaps for now. As far as we know, it's not here yet, but yeah, it will get here eventually. Even Australia got Varroa Destructor. It took a long time, but it did happen. So I don't know if does anybody have any questions about Tropo Laylapse? Yes, Roger.
Cycle or once at a time in the cell.
That Roger's asking the time in the cell. So that I don't know for certain. I haven't seen it on a chart, but we all know 21 days, 24 days, 21 days for worker, 24 days for brood cell. That's when the offspring are going to emerge along with the foundress from the cell. So it's married to the brood cycle of the bees.
I did put in the meeting chat a link for the National Bee Unit in the UK. And what they said was they will lay eggs in both drone and worker brood, but they do show a preference for drone brood. And then there's a link there. There's a whole lot of very readable information. I put that in the chat if somebody wants to grab that and send
Okay,
it out.
thank you, Sylvia.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know if that answers your question, but you know,
Is there, building up and their brood is hatching a day or so early, that interrupts the grow a little bit?
okay.
Same with
I'm sure, you know, logically they just wouldn't have as many offspring because they have less days in the under the cell. Yeah, I'm sure that has some impact. I don't know what that is. Yeah. So a question, Keith.
Efficacy is of Formic on the mice nutrients.
Um, so the question was, do we know if Formic, what its efficacy level is for Tropolealaps? And I don't know what that is. You know, none of the chemical treatments list 100% efficacy, even on Varroa. So yeah, I would expect to be less than 100%, equally as efficient on other cells. So just just when you see the efficacy numbers, you know, everybody agrees on those. Industries had these chemicals for a long time. Those numbers are pretty well understood, but you will not see 100% listed on any of those. So there's so many conditions that have to happen right. Variables like manufacturing, uh, temperature that you're dosing at, those factors keep it from being 100% kill absolutely all the time. You may get 90, but not 100. All right. So any other questions about the Tropa? Yeah, you know, OA is only a surface knockoff. So after like if we're using it for Varroa Destructor, after 36 hours, it has no efficacy, no lethality for Varroa mite. So I would expect to be pretty much the same for Tropolealaps. I'm not sure.
They don't hang out on the adult bee, they're going straight into the brood.
Yeah, yeah,
The way you have to go through.
yeah. It doesn't go under the cell. Yeah, it's only we just call that a surface knockoff because they have to physically contact it. Yeah. Yes.
Dave was breaking and adding it up in my head, and that put me right at the verge of laying working.
I the question was 6-day brood break. Is that going to cause laying workers? And yeah, yeah. This you can isolate the queen. You still have queen pheromone in the colony, but you're not going to have that ability to lay eggs. I mean, they may go rogue and start. You know, they may want to. You may have to go through an introduction process again with the queen. You know that they don't reject her, but I think you could isolate her. You know, pushing cage her, do something like that. Remove her temporarily. Well, even remove her temporarily. I think you could get away with for 6-day brood break. So you got to be at the point where there's no cap brood in the colony. Yeah, so it's your day 19 from that time you pull away the queen, more or less. Yes, Peter.
Queens sometimes have a break for different reasons, like during the year.
Yes. And the question was, doesn't the queen have a brood break at other times of the year naturally? And it's absolutely yes. So in winter, we know that the queen doesn't lay because there's no pollen availability, right? So there's brood break 1. We know that at the start of dearth, often the workers will go cannibalize their eggs when the dearth begins because they know they can't feed that population. There's another brood break. So there may be you start mixing in swarms and other factors like that in the colony. There can actually be a few times through the year where the colony has a brood break going naturally. So, question?
Seen Randy's site where, you do a split, there's a gap right at the end where the bee queen's not laying yet.
Mhm.
The cells are open, and you can do a layer right on that.
Yeah, that's like day 1920. Their practice is, and the question was, isn't there, um, uh, at the end of a split, a brood break, where all the cells that were capped before the brood break was induced have hatched, when there's no more capped brood and there's no eggs right behind it or larva. So you just haven't been capped yet. So when we do a split, that was often the practice. So Randy would do, so I worked on those crews. They'd do like a 4 or 5 way split in a nice strong double colony. That day 19, you'd expect all of anything that was capped to have come out of the cell by then. And then they got an OA dribble in their operation. They have a special use permit. I just want to lay that out because OA is not legal for us to use. But then they would do a dribble at 1920, day 1920, where there was no cap brood, there was no larva. And those bees come out really clean then. It's very effective treatment at that point. So yeah, that is a point where that could possibly be useful. Again, yes, a question here.
I'm so confused. How do you break the brood? Does that mean you have to decap all the ones that are already capped to be able to make that full period rest?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. To get a real brood break, yeah, you have to go through clean out that whole cycle, has to progress through. So any other questions? Let's see, what are we coming at? 3:45. Why don't we take a 10-minute break here? And then when we come back, we can go through some of those other questions you might have, like had them listed on the web page. We could talk about the buildup, our packages and nukes installation, or any other spring questions you might have. So we'll take a 10-minute break. And if you want, you can get your raffle ticket.
Awesome.
All right, let's take a seat. And then we can talk about some of these other spring topics that you might be dealing with. So with spring buildup, what we're talking about is all this brood rearing that's going on now. They're trying to, up at my elevation, no drones yet, but they're trying to build up and replace the old population, which they've pretty much already done. And they're just trying to build up their levels to get to swarm. That's what every bee colony wants to do. Build up to build up to swarm. And we're just going to kind of manage and be along in that process, and just to keep them building up, but not allowing them to swarm. So that's what we're talking about, the buildup. Does anybody have any questions about what they're seeing in their hives? They've been tipping their lids and looking inside, or doing inspections, because it's above 55. You could do anything you want to do in there. You can take that lid off, do a little more lengthy inspection. Does anybody have any questions about what they've seen in the buildup at all? This is a great time of year. Really, the bees are expanding a lot. Things are blooming. It's a wonderful time of year. Yes, Sarah.
Raylene, just brood one in my
Wow. Okay. Oh man. I am jealous. So we can, for somebody like myself that wants to do splits or do grafting to make queens, we need the other part of that equation for them to mate with. So without drones, we're waiting. We're waiting for the appearance of drones and we can get queens mated out. So I don't know what Keith,
Do you wanna talk about the purple line?
um,
Right when you start seeing the purple line drone, it's, you know, that you're so far out.
oh yeah, and I can't remember what how, is that a week away from hatch?
2 days.
3 days? Okay.
They need to do their orientation flights, and then they need to.
Harden up, doing all that stuff. And that takes a while. Yeah, it takes drones a while before they get flying and
So the idea, sorry, the reason I brought that up is because the idea is you start uncapping some of your drones before you see drones. When you start seeing those drone cells, if you uncap those drone cells and you see purpleize, you know you're about to get out from drone flight, meaning that you'll have an active DCA where you can have mating flights for your queens. So it's just kind of good to know.
Mhm.
Have some, but I'm seeing drone flight where I'm at 1,500 feet. So, and I have a ton of drones down at that.
yeah. So for myself, my yard at 1,500 has only had eggs that they're probably just not even capped larvae yet. So I'm a ways away from that. I am jealous of you guys because I look at my entrances every day, waiting for drones to fly out. And it's just an indicator um, of the area that there's drone availability in the area. And I'm just waiting for them. As soon as I see them flying, I can start doing grafting or splits or whatever it is I want to do. It's all there. It's all there to be done. So
2,500. I have drones coming out. I split yesterday. I made 6 new boxes basically. So
I'm just,
taking 2, I'm putting 90 super dog. It's there's flowers all over the place now. So yeah. So I'm taking a couple that for honey supers and there was some split. So out of 5 pies.
awesome. I'm just right across the freeway. How comes I don't have any drones? Man, I'm gonna bring my nukes over to your house, I think. Yeah. So yeah, depending on your objective, whether you want to increase your colonies, I always like splits just as a IPM practice. So when you divide the hive equally, we do like a walkaway split. That's a 50% mite reduction in those halves, and you didn't use any chemical. So if you did four-way splits, you can imagine that mite reduction is bigger and bigger how many times you divide. So it's a good practice in that regard. And plus things are building up so fast that we're keeping our bees from swarming. Because it's a bummer when you walk out and you watch half your colony fly away and you go, oh, there goes my honey crop. Yes.
Pass my phone or repeat the comment slash question.
Oh, okay. No, we were just asking who had drone flight at their elevations and what they were at. So we had 2,500, 1,500, and everybody else below that should probably have well into that now. So does anybody have any questions about package bees or nukes in any way at all? Like I said, our we should get our packages, we'll cut off on the 31st, and then April 12th, we should have, you should be coming to pick them up from us. We'll be bugging you. Okay, come and get your bees. So that's the timeline for the packages. So if you're doing some non-Langstroth deep hive type of beekeeping, like a top bar or worry hive, something like that, the package is what you would use. So, yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
So we, I ordered a nuke So
Okay.
is that gonna come in before field day?
I'm not 100%, I'm not 100% certain. And last year they came in after the field day. So, um, I would guess third or fourth weekend in April, which is after the field day. That's probably when we'll get them. I'm not certain. So,
Someone will notify me when it's ready.
oh yeah,
Where am I? Got the mix.
well, Golden West Bees in Colfax is in Grass Valley is gonna bring them down when they're ready. They're gonna be picked up from Bluestone Meadow Farm, which is John's farm. But Brian Ryder or myself, we're gonna be bugging you guys. Hey, we've got your bees, come and get them, right now. Because they're gonna be the last few years, they've been really strong nukes. And we're afraid of them, swarming or something while they're waiting to get rehomed. So we want you to rehome them ASAP. We'll be bugging you with emails. Believe.
Wanna me out?
Yeah. 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 Yes, ma'am.
Comment to add to that, in the past, they've sent an email and said, if you ordered, there's a pickup on Saturday from this time to that time. So you just drive over there and you pick up this packet. It's a little box, literally, it's about like that. It's sealed, they're in there, and you just take it home. And then
Install.
move on from there, but the pickup is super easy. Yeah, they
Yeah.
make it really efficient.
Yeah.
Maybe,
In and out.
maybe bring a whole sheet. And set them in your car,
Oh,
a sheet over, and then that way you could get them leaky bees. Leaking out your
Mhm.
bees.
Yes. Yeah. So I think the question was kind of like there was a little worry about picking up a package about them leaking out or whatever. So like Roger said, bring a sheet. Other thing we'll tell you to do is, hey, crank your AC up to the max and keep it cold in your car. They'll stay in a cluster that way. We've had some years where we've had pickups it was nearly snow. It was snowing. So the bees are clustered hard when it's cold like that. They're trying to conserve heat. So you usually don't have to worry about extras. Yeah. 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 Peter.
Fine to bring your equipment and stuff, because half the time there's bees on the outside of the box. You pick it up and if the thing slips up a little tiny bit, they'll come out of the box.
Yeah.
Slide it down, it's not really true.
Yeah. So that's a good point because a lot of the packages, we're going to try and sweep the excess bees off the side of them for you. This has happened a couple of times to me the past, within the past 3 or 4 years is I've spied a package that has a big clump of bees on the outside of it. And I've said, oh, that's the one I am taking because I've taken it home, brushed that clump off, and I've found a virgin queen in there. So this was a swarm that you're going to get a minor amount of bees flying in from the field and attaching to these packages anyway because they smell like bees. But in this case, it was actually a little swarm had come and attached to these packages. So I got a 2-for-1 out of that.
Something to put over the head just in case.
Yeah.
Or have a whole bunch of bees flying around.
Yeah. So if I'd taken that package that had that clump on it and I didn't think about it and I just dumped everything together and I dumped this virgin in with the rest of the bees, put my queen cage in there almost every time that I suspect this happening is that people will call and say, I took my queen cage out the next day and she was dead in there. And Usually I'll go and take a look, because now we got to be sure, before we introduce another queen, we got to be sure that that mass of bees is queenless. Because every time, if there's a virgin in there, there's another queen in there, every time we introduce a queen, they're going to kill her in that cage. So that's the reason why we'll try in the club to try and ensure we don't have any, there's going to be a few bees clinging to the outside of the package, but there shouldn't be a circular mass on there, ball-sized mass on the side of that thing. Because that's what we're trying to prevent. Try to prevent shaken and a virgin with our beautiful Golden West Queen that you paid such good money for. Yeah. So any other questions? Yes.
You get to the house and you can't find the queen. One, can we call one of you guys?
Yes.
That potentially she would have not made it via travel or escape somehow.
Okay. So the question was, if you get home and you find your nuke queenless, who do we contact? And that's give us the first call, because I probably field about 5-6 of those calls a year, and most times I get in there and look, and oh yeah, there she is, right there. She's hard to spot when you're new, so before we go ordering a queen to replace her with, we better make sure that we're going to make sure the colony's queenless.
Take pictures. And then you send it. And then they might not even have to come out for it. To take a look at each frame. And then that's a good habit to do, is because you're going to be overloaded when you start going in your hive and it gets bigger and bigger. Take pictures, and you can go in later on and zoom in on those pictures, and you'll see all kind of stuff that you missed if you got time to kind of look. So it's a good way to learn.
Yeah. But we have no problems. There's a few of us in these different areas that'll, oh yeah, I can go out and check that out. Because yeah, we want to make sure you're queen right. Now, Randy, he's going to hold these nukes a little longer. Most times when producers make nukes, the instant they see an egg, man, that thing's out of, up off the ramp out to the customer. Eric and Randy will hold these nukes until the second layout. So they're going to wait for this first layout. See all this capped frame, and in the center, remember how the queen starts in the center on a blank frame and does her helical laying until she covers the entire area? Well, the center hatches first. So you'll have this little bullseye in the center. So what we would do, we'd look and see that, see if there's eggs in there. It's like, oh, okay, second laying, she's good. She's good. Get her loaded out, can go to the customer. So he's going to hold them, typically holds them a little longer than most other producers, just to make sure that she's going to lay continuously. Yes, Scott.
Asking something which I get. Do you want to wait 4 days before they go and look for that queen to see if there's eggs, or if they can find eggs? They find anybody that they can't find their queen.
That probably good. So we're talking about like nukes, and yeah, I think that would be good to wait a couple of days. Honestly, if I was, and I'm doing it while I'm transferring. I'm taking a look, and the nukes will not be marked, and I'm not certain if the package ones will be either, because it seemed like we had a mix last year of some were marked and some weren't. So yeah, the question was, do we want to wait 4 days before we notify somebody in the club that we suspect our queen isn't laying? And And the answer is yes. We kind of, yeah, we'll have to give it 4 days. And then you can contact the club and somebody will come out and take a look at it just to make sure um, things are okay. Hopefully spot a queen. So yeah, well, the club will support you that way. Yeah,
We're here for you. I just wanted to kind of.
yeah. So um, for the packages, if you're starting from a blank foundation, it's going to take them you have to go through that 3-day introductory period for your queen before she's released. And hopefully there's some comb building at the end of that. Because once there's some comb, and she will start laying eggs if she's present. So that's a possibility of delay with the package is if you're just starting with a sheet and they're building from square zero completely. So it might take a few days before you get some eggs because of that process too. Yeah. So any other questions about packages or nukes? And you guys are all, has anybody done mite washes yet? Yeah.
I haven't done mite watches, but I separated my boxes and the drone comb in between, pulled apart. I went through the drone cell. Knowing that I should have found mice, and I found a few, but I was very pleased, so I didn't find any that well.
Okay, good. Yeah, so that when we talked about uncapping, uh, that's exactly what he did. He's uncapping drone cells or some cells and looking for mites, which is it's a good method. It just takes time to do. Yeah.
Doesn't take as much time as I call.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You're there anyway.
Okay. But yeah, uncapping, that's a good thing to do. Um, yeah,
I just did a mite wash today. There were 7 or 8 mites, so I did a formic treatment. It's 73 degrees here, so hopefully I'll be okay when the weather gets cooler on Wednesday. But I have a lot of drones in the blue eye stage and like 2 frames full. So I took one that I had specifically in the green drone frame thing, and I still have plenty in case somebody needs to mate out. But my queen looks like she's doing an amazing job right now. So
and Sylvia, tell
Mhm.
people what elevation where you're at.
I am at I don't know, at sea level, I think.
Orangevale or
I'm
no,
in,
Fair
I'm
Oaks.
just outside of Sacramento in Carmichael, so I'm about a mile from the American River, so I think I'm
Yeah,
flat landing it, for sure. Which
yeah,
is which is actually, even though it's 50 minutes away, the beekeeping differences are pretty amazing. And there's all sorts of stuff blooming, and they're bringing it in, and um, you know, the manzanita is in full bloom at this point, and
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So she's like 60 feet, I think, or whatever Carmichael is. So, um,
We're on a little
yeah,
bump above, so we might be 60, but it could be 30.
yeah. Things happen a lot
Fast.
sooner down in the valley. Um, so we have beekeepers all the way from sea level, basically, up to lake level. So things happen, the further you go up the hill, the later things happen. The bloom progression is delayed naturally as you go up in elevation. So it's
Yeah,
food
3 weeks.
availability.
Yeah, 3 weeks ago, I got a call from Elk Grove to come and collect a swarm. So, I mean, they've started swarming already here.
Yeah.
Here too. Last week I went on 2 phone calls down in El Dorado Hills.
Did you get your pictures in and you could be the champion. Oh, okay. So, this, if you, no, I'll just say, typically this is when I would bring out Randy's mite model and show you the curve, the bell curve. If you're going to be a little lax on your mite checking, this is the time of the year to do that because of those two buildup curves where if your hives have gone through winter, they've and are building up, the mites are not, that mite count's going to lag behind. The bees are out brooding the Varroa mites at this point. So your counts are going to be a little lower than late spring and early summer when it starts to slow down. So that's why they overwintered and they're building up. You look in the colony and it's, oh yeah, it's, man, things increasing in size every time I look in there. It's artificial. Your mite count's going to lag behind the growth curve of brood. So that's pretty typical. So mite treatments now are like you heard Sylvia say, she's using some formic down 70 degrees down there, a lot more than up here. So you have to look at the instructions on that package for whatever miticide you use. And since that's a fumigant, it depends a lot on temperature. The colder it is, it doesn't vaporize as much and you don't, it isn't as effective. So you just got to make sure and check the label for your miticide to see the temperature range you're supposed to use it through. And I just have to throw out, we've used the term OA and we've talked about OA. There is no labeled OA product for sale in California. So that's considered off-label use and that's illegal. So there
Can I,
are,
can I say something about that? So as some of you know, I'm one of the administrators on our Facebook page. And because we want to make sure we are keeping legal and ethical, if you start talking about oxalic acid on the Facebook page, we'll take it down because it's not legal. What you choose to do, bleaching the inside of your boxes, you're more than welcome to do that. But, we don't know, who may be looking at our Facebook page and saying, is this club endorsing this not legal use of this product? It is legal most everywhere in the United States, but not in California. So please know that if you could avoid talking about OA or any other illegal method like Sertan, which is the um, uh, wax moth treatment, which they won't even ship to California, it's going to come down. So sorry about that, but I just had to get that in.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, if it's not labeled as a miticide, it's illegal. That's it. So we can't, the club can't endorse non-legal practices. Okay. Yeah, so this formic is a good, we're kind of getting in the temperature range where this is a pretty good treatment. So we'll Formic Pro, Mitaway Quick Strips, different generations, the same product. So anybody else have any questions about any spring topics? You can ask it all here. No? Okay. Well, at this point, we'll just wrap up the meeting and we'll have